The snow in Zurich falls with a specific clinical precision. It blankets the biotech valley, turning billions of dollars of infrastructure into a silent white grid. I stand by the glass window of this private office, 60 floors above the laboratories, watching the flakes settle like ash. In chemistry, a flawed catalyst can turn a precious compound into a deadly toxin. In a family, it is precisely the same. 10 years ago, I handed the operational keys of Preston Biotech to my son Kevin. I did not do it because I was tired. I did it to observe if his moral structure could withstand the crushing pressure of sudden wealth. The answer arrived on a Tuesday morning, not with a conversation, not with a warning, but with a single red command line on the terminal screen. Access denied. The main laboratory was silent. The air was sterile, maintained at a constant 20 degrees Celsius. My daughter-in-law, Chloe, stood at the head of the conference table. She was wearing a suit that cost more than a high-performance centrifuge. Beside her was Julian, 26 years old, a data engineer with a glossy tablet and an unearned sense of authority. My son, Kevin, sat in the corner. His arms were crossed. His eyes were fixed on the floor, the posture of a man who had already traded his spine for a projected profit margin. "The data is absolute, Arthur," Chloe said. Her voice was a thin, synthetic wire. "Julian's AI model has simulated the next 4 quarters. Your natural 60-day fermentation process is a bottleneck. It is outdated. It is systematically hindering our ability to scale." Julian nodded, tapping the screen. "We are replacing the organic culture with a synthetic compound, sir. 6 hours per batch. 90% reduction in raw material costs." I looked at the data on the screen, a beautiful glowing lie. I did not raise my voice. Anger is an unstable element. It causes unnecessary thermal expansion in a negotiation. "The synthetic compound lacks biological stability," I said. My voice was a level, horizontal line. "The moment it comes into contact with oxygen, the molecular chains will fracture." Chloe laughed, a short, sharp bark of pity. "The market doesn't care about molecular eternity, Arthur. It cares about velocity. Your system access has been revoked. Security will escort the former chairman from the premises." The terminal behind me clicked. The digital ledger of my life's work wiped from my profile. Right in front of the technicians I had trained myself. I did not argue. I did not look at Kevin, because there is nothing more tragic than looking into a vacuum. I unbuttoned my white lab coat. Slowly, deliberately, I folded it into a perfect, flawless square. I placed it on the pristine stainless steel table. They believed they were dismissing an old man with a dated notebook. They did not realize they had just uninstalled the only operating system that kept the machinery running. They think they have eliminated a redundant operating cost. They believe they have optimized the foundation. They are wrong. In the architecture of business, as in science, the surface coat means nothing if the structural integrity is compromised. They have just pulled the final load-bearing brick from the foundation of their empire, and I am going to watch the gravity do its work. The isolation has begun. The compression is absolute. The noise is deafening. On my secondary monitor, the revenue metrics are screaming. Preston Ultra has flooded the global market. A 90% reduction in production costs, translated into instant, frenzied, unregulated capital. Chloe is live streaming from a superyacht in Monaco. Her skin is coated in the synthetic sheen of her own product. Her laughter a high, erratic, unstable frequency. "We bypassed the old bottleneck," she tells her millions of viewers, holding up a jar that cost $3,000 to buy and $6 to manufacture. "We didn't just scale our business, we conquered the industry." Money is pouring into their accounts like an open vein. They are celebrating a victory built on a molecular crime. I sit in my private library. The air here is thick with the honest scent of dried paper and old leather. In front of me, the handwritten notebook lies open. Page 42, the stabilization matrix, the specific organic peptide chain that they discarded. I do not watch her revenue streams. I look at a terminal window of my own design. A countdown clock, ticking down to the exact second of molecular decay. Julian's synthetic compound has a fatal, inherent defect. Phase separation. Once the factory seal is broken, once the oxygen enters the matrix, the cheap chemical chains will begin to necrose. It is not a matter of opinion. It is a matter of basic, Immutable. Physics. Day 91. The countdown clock hits 0. The global grid begins to fracture. The alerts arrive on my screen like a rapid-fire sequence of system errors. In the flagship boutiques of Paris, London, and Tokyo, the jars on the luxury glass shelves are dying. The emulsion is breaking down. The cream is separating, turning a vile, rusty, moss-green sludge. And the smell, a heavy, chemical, pungent reek of sulfur. Then, the human cost begins to upload. A premier beauty blogger with 12 million followers posts a video. She is not posing, she is screaming. Her face is covered in angry, blistered, second-degree chemical burns. It is toxic! She sobs into the lens, her hands shaking. Preston Ultra is not skincare. It is acid. The class action lawsuits are filed within 3 hours. The regulatory agencies are launching criminal investigations. Their stock price is a vertical drop into a bottomless abyss. A sharp vibration on my mahogany desk. A text message from my son. Kevin, Dad, please. Julian's formula is degrading on a global scale. The federal police are at the gates of the lab. They are threatening criminal indictments for toxic contamination. We need your stabilizer formula. We need the notebook. Please save us. I look at the glowing text on the screen. I look at the panic of a drowning child who willingly chose the storm. I do not type a reply. I do not call my attorneys. I tap the glass surface and I shut the device down. The room returns to a total, absolute darkness. I pick up my porcelain cup and take a slow, deliberate sip of Earl Grey tea. They spent my tolerance as if it were an infinite resource. When their system began to necrose, they reached out to the man they once called obsolete. But my kindness is not an emergency bailout fund. They chose the synthetic illusion. Now, they must live through the real decomposition. The spring is compressed to its absolute limit. Tomorrow, the foreclosure begins. The Zurich Bankruptcy Court is a chamber of cold, uncompromising judgment. The air inside is thick, with the scent of panic and sweat. Kevin and Chloe sit at the defense table, surrounded by a legal team that has already run out of answers. 80 million Swiss francs in liabilities and damages. A pending criminal indictment for toxic contamination. Their assets liquidated. Their accounts frozen. The state-of-the-art laboratory, the only physical asset remaining, is on the auction block. The opening floor price is 5 million francs, the judge declares, the gavel resting in his hand. Do I hear an opening bid? Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. I stand up from the back row. I am wearing a tailored charcoal suit. 5 million, I say. My voice cuts through the room like a clinical incision. Chloe spins around, her eyes bloodshot, her face distorted by a manic, frantic rage. Arthur, she screams, lunging against the wooden barrier. Where did you get 5 million? You are a failure. You were bankrupt. I do not look at her. I do not answer. My lead counsel steps forward, placing a heavy, bound document on the clerk's desk. Your Honor, my lawyer states, his tone a precise, unyielding instrument. My client, Dr. Arthur Preston, is not merely purchasing the physical asset, he is reclaiming his property. The brand name Preston and the core formulation patents have always been registered under his personal, private, intellectual property. He turns to Chloe, his gaze a cold, horizontal line. The defendant's corporation was merely a temporary, licensed entity. A license that automatically self-terminated. The exact day they revoked his system access, the shift is absolute. The entire infrastructure they built, the marketing, the scaling, was an empty shell. They own nothing. I walk down the center aisle. I stop exactly 3 feet from the defense table. I look down at my son. I look down at his wife. I adjust the cuffs of my suit jacket. You can copy a shell, Chloe, I state. My tone is a cold, sharp meteorite. But you cannot copy the soul of a formula. You believe that engineering data could replace biological integrity. You believe that marketing could outrun the truth. I lean in slightly, the absolute authority filling the room. Tonight's payment is the tuition fee for your first lesson in reality. In this world, no one owes you anything. Not the bank, not the state, and certainly not the father you deposed. Kevin collapses forward, his hands slamming against the wood, begging through his tears. Dad, please, don't do this to us. Chloe's laughter breaks, a jagged, insane sound as she realizes she is completely penniless and facing a prison cell. I do not offer a hand. I reach out and take the new laboratory keys from the court officer. I turn my back on the ruins of their greed. I walk toward the exit, the heavy oak doors opening before me, leaving nothing behind but a silent, vacant void. The system has been completely purified.